How does self-esteem relate to motivation? Relate to children who want to learn? We believe very fundamentally that people tend to do those things that make them feel good, that make them feel successful, that make them feel competent. And correspondingly, they avoid, not motivated, to do things that make them feel incompetent, a failure, those bad feelings. And what we've tried to do in the Kirkwood Program is to enable children to experience a legion of positive experiences and avoid the negative ones. And in the process of doing that, the student will become more and more motivated, more and more putting their energy into working to learn. The next very critical component in motivation is self-esteem. And the principle is that we believe people tend to do those things that make them feel good, successful, and competent. And correspondingly, they avoid like the plague those activities that make them feel bad, incompetent, like a failure. We actually structure our lives doing those things, those activities that make us feel good, successful, and competent. Part of career training is finding out what you're good at and doing it, and not doing those things that you don't like, that don't make you feel good, that expose your incompetence and that sense of failure. Now, there's actual experiences that take place in time and space. We call these affective experiences. They are the building blocks or the ingredients that make up a person's self-esteem. Now, these are composed of three elements. There is a behavioral element. That experience took place in time and space. It has point-to-itness. It has dimension. It's something you can bring back into memory. It also has a feeling, an affective quality. It made me feel good, successful, and competent. And correspondingly, there's a valuative element. I am good at reading, writing, golf, tennis, whatever it is. You can feel one way about yourself in that area and an entirely different way about an area that requires different skills and abilities. For example, I can feel one way about myself as a reader and an entirely different way about myself as a public speaker or as a golfer. If the area requires and develops unique and specific skills and abilities, you can have a different level of self-esteem in terms of that area. Now, in our lives as adults, we structure it so we don't have to do things that make us feel bad. But a child does not have that luxury, particularly within a school situation they're required to attend. And the problem is, one of the reaction formations or one of the ways that a young person deals with having a preponderance of negative experiences is they deinvest. If you say something isn't important, I don't care, then you can't hurt me anymore. It's like you've given up. And this is one of the worst things that happens. As a child gives up, they continue to get negative feedback, but they defend themselves against it. And I think part of that reaction formation produces an internalized anger. This is a student that defaces school property or does something that is harmful to the school and ultimately perhaps harmful to themselves. And your job is not to create those experiences. Your job is to help the child experience his own success so that every time that child puts forth energy into working to learn, you can recognize and you can validate it and you can create a positive affective experience, an experience that takes place in time and space, and for that moment in time enables that child to feel good, to feel successful, and to feel competent. And part of your expertise is thinking about how you're going to do that. Think about every time that a child takes upon themselves an assignment and completes it, that you can recognize it and validate it. You know, some children work hard and they achieve a lot, but they never feel good about themselves because the standard is always too high. And it's like the parent or the teacher or the system is saying to that child, hey, it's not good enough. You can do better. And so even though the child achieves, they're getting negative feedback. The bar is still higher. You could always do better. Now there's a balance here. The teacher is like a coach, and it stretches the child in terms of being able to do things beyond what they normally expect or have defined as safe for themselves. So you're a coach, but you're a coach that believes in that child. and you have a standard that that child can achieve, and you recognize and validate it. And when you do, you create the building blocks that make up a child's self-esteem. And again, think about this. People tend to do those things that make them feel good, successful, and competent. When a child takes upon himself a project and completes it, there's an intrinsic sense of satisfaction. And then if you can recognize that effort and validate it, you create one of those experiences that will build self-esteem and ultimately produce motivation. At this point, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Kirkwood program, because self-esteem was one of the pillars and the foundations of our program. And what we have attempted to do is to develop a program so that every time that child puts forth energy into working to learn, that can be recognized and validated by the teacher. Now, to do it, we had to have a standardized work unit, which is standardized on both duration of time for completion of the exercise and conceptual level of difficulty. And the neat thing, what it means, if a child put forth energy to complete an exercise, there isn't anything to keep him from doing the next exercise other than the application of his own energy. And that's a commodity he has in abundance. That standardized work unit is standardized on both duration of time and conceptual level of difficulty. So each work unit is designed for about 5 minutes. And some exercises that are longer will get 2 work units of credit. So it's standardized. Now, conceptual level of difficulty obviously increases from a young child being able to draw a straight line between 2 objects that are the same, down to where that same child is multiplying or dividing fractions with uncommon denominators, or doing statistics. Obviously conceptually more difficult. But in the design of the Kirkwood program, conceptual level of difficulty goes up at a slower rate than the child's ability to do more and more work. So you're actually structuring the child experiencing his own success. And I want you to notice in the Kirkwood program that there's actual tracking. There's a work production tracking box on the student's computer, and they can see exactly how many work units that they've completed. Mr. Pencil, who is a character that we developed, actually throws in a disc showing that the child has completed a work unit. The child can see exactly during that classroom period how many work units they've done. And then ultimately they can set a goal for themselves in terms of the number of work units they're going to accomplish. And they correspondingly can become goal-directed.